is go to this website called vr.vex.com. And that gives you a virtual robot that you can move around the screen. We're going to show you how we'll use algebra to help with that. So when you go to the website, this comes up. You can just click on continue for free here. That's what I did earlier, so I'll just remove that. And then what you do is you go to Open Playground, and you're going to draw a pattern using algebra here on this playground. You can maybe make it a bit smaller if you like. You might need space for code, so if we'll just make it smaller there. Actually, we'll just put it on the side, it's easier. Okay, so the first thing you do is you go to events over here. So this is all color coded, so these yellow pieces of code here, these blocks of code as they're called, are under the yellow button here. So the first thing you do is when started. So we're going to start, this is a virtual robot on the screen. So we're going to get that guy to move around and draw patterns. So when started is the first instruction. The next instruction is under looks here. We're going to move a pen down. So we're going to draw a trail wherever we go, and that's going to be the pattern. And so for example, go back here now to driving. We're going to drive forward for 200 millimeters. And then turn right 90 degrees. I'm going to try and draw a kind of a spiral shape. So that means keep driving forward and keep turning to make the spiral. And it gets a bit bigger each time for a spiral, obviously. So say go to 220 the next time. Turn right again. And keep repeating that, increasing by 20 each time to get the spiral effect in the drawing. So 240 the next time. We'll do one or two more. Turn right for 90 degrees. Drive forward for go up to 260 this time. And turn right again. And finally drive forward up here for 280 steps. And turn right 90 degrees. Okay, so there's our code. So you don't need a background in coding, as you can see. It's just common sense. We're making this guy drive, like driving a car or driving any other object. And drive and turn constantly to create a spiral shape. So let's run it and see what happens. If you click on run here, play. So watch as it goes through the code. It's driving forward and a little bit extra each time to get that spiral effect. And it stops there after 5 turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because we only did 5 of them. So as you can see, this is quite tedious. We can keep going and making it more advanced, adding on more and more. We'll get a nice spiral eventually, but it's very slow and cumbersome. Now this is where algebra comes in, or encoding the concept of variables. So as we know, X stands for something that varies in maths, and it's the same idea in coding. There's a concept called variables over here. And we're going to work smarter. We're going to go to variables. So this is like the X in maths basically. And we're going to create a variable. So we'll make a variable. And we'll call it X. Why not? Whatever we want. Just submit. And we're going to take out all of this repetition. And instead we're going to try and repeat these 2 steps, but increasing X every time. And this is where we see the value of algebra. Algebra can do things for us that we can't do otherwise. It avoids all that repetition. So what we do is, at the start we'll set X to 200. So set X to 200 at the start. Come over here. You can click here and find X. So we're going to set X to 200. And now we're going to keep repeating these 2 steps over and over again. That's called iteration or repetition. And if we go to control here, we can say repeat. There's a way to do that. So click on repeat. And we're going to keep repeating those 2 steps, maybe 30 times to get a nice decent spiral. And now we use the power of algebra, the power of the X or the variable here. So come over to the variable. And instead of 200 each single time, we're going to have to increase it each time. So what we can do is we can increase it by drag this over here. Of course, it's x we're talking about. So bring in x here. We're going to change x by 20 each time. Go up by 20. And of course, the way it is at the moment, it's going to drive forward 200 each time. But we want to drive forward x. So basically, x. So if you come over here and drag the x across. So this is your x. And put that in there instead of the 200. Now, what does that do for us? So it sets x to 200 at the start. So there's your algebra for maths. X equals 200. But it's going to change. It's a variable. It's going to vary. So I'm going to repeat this 30 times what's inside here, these 3 steps. What are these 3 steps? Drive forward for x. So at the moment, x is 200. So at the start, it should drive forward 200, turns 90. But then look what happens. It changes x by 20. So x goes up to 220 automatically. And it'll go further. So you go repeat again, it'll go further the next time, and so on. And every time you go around, x will be increased by 20. So this is far more efficient, a smarter way to work, basically. So if we reset down here and just play and see what happens. You can see going through the loops here, it's looping around 30 times. So now we're getting a decent spiral, all because of the power of algebra. And there's the link between algebra and the real world. You can imagine all sorts of scenarios where people are like this is a virtual robot on a screen with a real robot, trying to get a robot to go along a certain path or whatever. So there's one application straight away of algebra in the real world. And that's the end of that lesson on algebra and variables.